Hi, so we're just going to talk about the helping process in the context of working with children, young people, and families. So you would have learnt a little bit about the helping process and the idea that it sort of has this beginning, middle, and end. So engagement, planning, intervention, and then kind of closure. And what I would say is often, particularly if we're working around trauma and trauma-informed practice, this can be a bit of a false distinction, and that the helping process, I think, often looks a little bit more like this. So you're in there, you're trying to fix some problems or do the work that you do, but it's very complicated and there's a lot of different factors involved in the helping process. So we can't always say it's this sort of simple step-by-step process. So when we're working with children or young people or families, we just need to understand that these processes don't always, operate in this linear fashion, but there is going to be the beginning where we focus on engagement. We may come back to that point of engagement at many times within the process of helping, but we also want to understand what's happening and try and put some things into practice as well before we eventually move on to a kind of position of closure here. So the beginning is, when the person might first come to us, and so they might be referred to us via an organisation. But of course, they might just self-refer as well, or they might just sort of walk in the door. So don't always rely on the fact that we're going to have lots and lots of information about people when they come. What we do know from the beginning is that it's our first contact and our first observation. So it is an important time. Sometimes our observations need to change or move from that point. We want to build that rapport and keep that rapport going throughout our professional kind of practice with people. And we want to think about how we conduct ourselves in the helping process. So how do we, as much as this is the first impression we get about the client, this is also the first impression you give the client. So perhaps that could be a more important thing for us to focus on at times. So some strategies around engagement and assessment, let's talk through those. What's really important is to pick something that is age appropriate. So for adults and young people, conversation, or asking them to tell a narrative, the story of how they came to be there, the story of their life. That's often how we're getting that information from people. And we might supplement that through using assessment tools or other particular processes that an organisation has. But when we're working with children, or often young people as well, we might be engaged in more activity-based practice to learn from them. So we might draw from more a social pedagogy kind of approach. Sometimes doing with people can make people more comfortable. So you might notice yourself if sometimes you get interesting conversations happen when you're driving a car or baking a cake or doing the gardening or something like that, rather than a really formal conversation. Sometimes people are more comfortable to converse while they're doing things. Actually, men are more comfortable doing that than women, which is a tip for working with men, really. Now, I'm going to show you some different ideas here about maps and diagrams and all these kinds of things that you can use when you're working with people. Just know you don't have to use these. Not everybody does use these processes. Some people find them useful, some people don't. It's going to depend a lot on the client group, the context you work with, how much time you have, etc., etc. So we're just going to touch base and talk about them as potential ideas for you right now. So first is a genogram, and I know you've done that in other classes. And it's essentially a fancy family tree. So we've got the family tree, but we might look at who's in the family, what relationships they have with each other, etc. When we use a genogram, ideally we're using it with the client. We don't just do it at the client, because it can actually be quite off-putting doing that in front of somebody. And this is, as we know, the basic kind of setup for a genogram. I'll let you have a quick read of that slide. We might also look at how these genograms relate, so we can look at them between our family groups as well. We have an eco map as well, which we might have talked about in other classes. That can be an extension of the genogram, or it can be just an eco map about the individual. It's essentially a mind map, so we don't need to get too complicated with that. That can work particularly well with young people as well, because they can choose their own colours or way of representing kind of things. So we could look at all the other factors in their life here and what's working and what's not. This here, we're looking at social capital. So this is a strengths kind of based idea. So we look at what are the resources available to that person to help them have a better life. So we know that maybe if you go to school, it could help you get opportunities for jobs, for education, for training, but it might also be problems because be a problematic area for you to engage in because you might have discrimination there or it might not fit your learning style, etc. So these are all just ideas. We could also look at particular family members and what's going on for those. I really love this one here, where we can look at movement over time. So if we're looking, this looks at someone's housing history, but we could look at this with somebody's, offending behaviour. If we looked at a child in foster care, we could do this as well. The only thing I would say is if someone's telling you this story about how they moved into, say, all these foster homes, and what we've got 12 here, as you're drawing that out with someone, if they're telling you the story and you're drawing it, they might actually feel quite sad looking at this and feel like it's a bit of a grim story to tell. So again, you would get them to draw it themselves. They might choose a colour for places that were positive or negative or whatever it be. This is a lovely one. I like this. Probably has been more my style of working, but looking at a road map. So what happened in life? You're getting a sort of life story, a sequence here. Good things, bad things. People can draw it any way that they like. I've had people do this on through timelines as well. So they can be all interesting ways of looking at getting information from people in the helping process.